It's all gonna make sense as we go through this, I promise. But guys, I'm gonna share why you should stop chasing tone in this video. Does this mean I have to stop chasing tone too? Yeah, Gunner, that means you too. This is going to be a fun video, guys. It's going to feel like an interactive video, actually, because of all the comments that I expect to come from this. So we're going to reverse engineer what you just heard. We're going to break everything down, and you're going to understand why you should probably stop chasing someone else's tone that you're hearing on a song or album, and maybe stop chasing tone in general after we go through this. Stay tuned till the end of the video. I've got a free tone guide for you. I'll tell you where to get that. I know some of you already have that, but I'll share that with you. First, let's just break out a raw guitar tone, okay? I'll share what I recorded this with, by the way, but here's just the raw guitar tone right here. Now, you may have loved that tone, you may have hated that tone. Before we take the next step though, real quick, so I am using my, well, you guys saw the guitar just now, I'm using my Prestige, my Ibanez Prestige RG1570 passive pickups. I'm using the V8 passive stock pickup here, the bridge pickup, and I recorded that track with the EVH 5153 EL34 tube head 50-watt head with matching 212 cab, Shure SM57 mic going through PreSonus Studio One. Okay, nothing fancy, just a raw guitar track. But now we're gonna do something a little different that might alter the tone, okay? Listen to this track. I'll play it back and forth with the first track that you heard, so see if you notice any subtle differences. Now, what you may have noticed is version 2 of that track may have been a little subdued, okay, and it may have had a little less bite and a little less bottom end. What I did is I added a compressor to the track, and I also added an EQ. Now, you can see these on the screen, the compressor right here, nothing major going on, but the reason why we add a compressor, especially when recording with a real amplifier, especially a tube amp, is because that's going to kind of level everything out. It's going to take those peaks, bring them down a little bit, take the low points, bring those up a little bit, just to smooth everything out. Now, oftentimes we add an EQ to the track as well, and again, this kind of smooths everything out as well. Oftentimes you'll drop that bottom end a little bit because recording with a real amp, even if you have the bass, you know, not cranked up on that thing, which I don't have it cranked at all, you're still going to get a little bit of that heavy bottom end, and that can do some bad things in the mix. Now, we've got more comparisons, okay? We're not stopping here by any means, but I wanted to share those details because when you're recording an album, when an artist or band records an album, they're miking up their guitars, these are typical things that happen in the process after the fact, okay? So there's a slight difference in the tone and the sound adding just these two components to that track. Now we're gonna make another change. I'm gonna call Gunner over. I'm gonna get him to record another guitar track. He's gonna basically play the same thing that I played earlier that I just recorded, but this is what that sounds like. Two guitars, and I'll share the details, of course, after. Now that sounded pretty cool, and again, we're just hearing the guitars only. We've got some more stuff to add into this thing, all right? But that sounded really cool. So Gunnar basically just played the same thing that I played. What I did in the studio here, and I'll show you on screen, is I had the one track that I originally recorded, and I panned that all the way left. I had Gunnar come in, record the same thing, play the same thing, right, his own style there, and then we panned that one all the way to the right. And that gave us that really nice stereo sound there, really cool sound. And I left the compression and EQ, I had that on both tracks. So let's take a step back. I want you to hear the one single track by itself with the compression and EQ, okay, because we kind of churched that up a little bit. That one track compared to the new version here with two guitars. So you heard the difference there, okay? You heard the one track by itself, even with the compression and EQ. Okay, sounds okay, but that compared to the two guitars hard pan, well, that's a huge difference in the tone, the sound, and just overall vibe, okay? But now we're gonna add in a very important element that many guitar players don't even think about, and this is kind of where we go wrong when we're trying to dial in someone else's tone, because we hear this element right here. And I'm gonna bring back Gunnar for this one. Hey, he's gotta earn his keep. Now, let's do an A/B test. Let's hear the two guitars by themselves that you heard earlier, okay, because that sounded really cool, but let's compare that to what you just heard with the bass guitar. Whoa, huge difference there in tone, in sound, vibe, feel, everything. And we haven't even added the drums, but we're getting to that next. But I want to bring this point up really quick. If you just heard the band playing that, the guitars and the bass, you just heard that, you didn't see them playing, you just heard it, and you're trying to match that tone. Well, we've already got several things going here. You've got the bass, right? You've got that bottom end, and if you're trying to match that with your guitar amp or your amp sim, you're going to be tempted to crank up the bass. But remember, you're not really capturing that guitar tone because there are more things happening than just the guitar, okay? Now, let's add in some drums and let's see how the full mix sounds here. By the way, I didn't get video for the drums, but that was Cameron Fleury on drums, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a second here. But that was real drums you just heard by Cameron Fleury, notable metal drummer for hire. He's awesome. I've been working with him for a lot of my stuff. Next album coming up included. So again, we'll chat more about that in a second here. But that was the full mix. But let's take a step back really quick. I want to go back to the original guitar track that we recorded. Okay, that first guitar track that you heard by itself, no compression, no EQ, no anything, just the raw guitar track. And I want you to hear the difference between that and the full mix here real quick, okay? So here it is. Now, there are a few more things that happen after this process, okay? We're really not done. I'm not gonna go through this with you, but you've got the professional mixing that should take place after this. Now, me, I have mixed my own albums up to this point. This next one coming up, I'm probably gonna hire someone to do that part. I always outsource the mastering part though, okay? That's something that you really should have someone doing that does it on a regular basis and that's great at it, especially for your genre of music, which is metal in our case, right? But as those things happen, well, that means more changes to the overall tone. And the point of this video was just to share that when you listen to music, when you listen to the full mix, your favorite guitar player, their song, their album, whatever, when you listen to that, you're not just hearing a guitar tone, okay? So when you're trying to mimic that tone, you're really trying to mimic everything else that's happening around it, that's giving it that extra push, that extra bottom end, that precise and refined EQ, that compressed signal, okay? You're really trying to match all that with just one guitar and one amp or amp sim, whatever you're using. So even if you dial in something that sounds similar to that song or album that you're hearing, well, you didn't really dial in their guitar tone. You just dialed in something that's kind of mimicking what you're hearing in the full mix. If you were to strip everything away and get down to that one guitar, and oftentimes there will be multiple guitars. Me, I only record 2 rhythm tracks, hard pan each, just like you saw earlier. And some bands lay down more tracks than that, right? But if you were to strip everything down to just one guitar, let's just say the very first guitar that was recorded for that song or that album, and then you tried to mimic that, you tried to dial that in, you might not be happy with the tone that you're hearing. You might be like, huh? This sounds like crap. But why does it sound so good in the full mix? Well, because all of the things that happened from the one raw guitar being recorded to everything that happened thereafter. So guys, that's why I strongly feel like that too many guitar players spend too much time or waste too much time chasing someone else's tone, because there are things that need to happen to your guitar tone after the fact to make it sound good in the full mix. Now, I mentioned a tone guide, so I've got a link to one of my blog posts on my website, jasonstallworth.com. I've got a link in the description that goes to a complete tone guide. This will help you. It's got videos in that guide. It's got YouTube videos in there on the blog post, but I also have screenshots of amp sims, my settings, and some images, some close-up images of my amps, EQ, effects I use, and that sort of thing. And I just take you through the whole process of how I get my tones. Now, understand that you might not like my tones, but going through the guide, that will at least give you a starting point. So I encourage you to read through that. There's no catch. It's just a blog post. It's a link to my website. You go there. Some of you guys already know about this, and hey, go read it again. Bookmark it, save it in your favorites, and check that out. I think that will be very helpful to you. Now, I want to give a real quick album update too. I mentioned Cameron laying the drum tracks down. He actually laid these drums down over a year, probably like a year and a half ago. By the way, I'm filming this in July 2022. I have been working on an album for so long, guys, and I probably should save this part for another video because it's not really related to what we just talked about. But those of you who are still hanging out, thank you, by the way. We always have these little guitar and tone chats at the end of my videos, so this is our chat today. But anyway, I recorded everything with my 7-string initially with plugins, which that's how I do my initial tracks anyway, because it's just easy. And my intent, of course, and which still is, was to go back and re-record everything with a real amp, my 5153 amp. Well, as I started recording that, my 7-string with a real amp, just mimicking what I recorded with plugins, I don't know, something was happening. I just wasn't really happy with the way things were going. One day, I decided, well, why don't I re-record everything with my Ibanez? Let's just see what it sounds like, you know, it's passive pickups, 6-string guitar. So now some of the stuff that I wrote on the 7-string, about 4, maybe even 5 songs, I ended up completely changing them, right, with the 6-string, because it just wasn't, I don't know, just wasn't really, didn't like what I was hearing on the 6, and I really didn't like what I heard on the 7 either. So as I rewrote and re-recorded everything with the Ibanez, I'm like, okay, I'm really liking this so far. So all that took time. I am now in the lyric writing process. So far I have the 10 songs recorded. There's going to be another track that I put on there. About half of the album is going to be instrumental, the other half will have vocals. So I am working on vocals and lyrics like as we speak. Well, not right this moment, but as soon as I finish this video, I'm going to get back to work on this stuff. Then I've got the guitar solos to go, and I am looking to get some help. I've already got a studio in mind and some folks that I'll be working with for the mixing and the mastering. So more to come on that, and I know it feels like deja vu for some of you, and I didn't mean to rhyme that time. Oh, there's 2. I know to some of you it sounds like a broken record. It's like, oh my God, it's deja vu. I've heard this before, Jason. You just said this like, you know, 3 months ago in another video. Guys, I don't know what to tell you. I have been a little nervous about this album for some reason, and I've been a little hesitant. And I finally have it like the platform, the foundation, where I want it, where I'm like real happy with it. I've been listening to the songs in my headphones at the gym, and I'm like, okay, I'm liking what I'm hearing. So I'm taking my time. I'm taking this kind of slow. I want it to be great when I put it out there. You know, I released my Masterpiece album. That was my first album with vocals in 2019. And thank you guys for supporting that album. Now the 3 albums before that, Apocalyptic Dreams, that had Heavy Metal Workout 2, those are all just instrumental. Masterpiece was my first vocal album. I'm happy with Masterpiece, but I left a lot of room for improvement, guys. I'm just being honest with you, mainly from a production standpoint. And I've already gotten better. I've kind of fixed those issues already on this new album, but again, I'm getting ready to go in and lay the vocals for the vocal songs, and it's like, and I've still got to write the lyrics to this, by the way. This kind of happens sometimes. I'll write the song, record it, then I'll go back like last minute as I'm laying the vocal tracks. I'll start writing vocals, and I'll just go ahead and record those. So again, guys, I apologize it's taken so long. The album is called Overcometh. More to come on that, no pun intended. The pun's always intended, but I'll be putting some more content surrounding that whole process and keeping you guys up to date. But anyway, guys, let me know your thoughts in the comments on the tone and everything that you just heard. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it shed some light. You know, the most important thing about tone, though, guys, in my opinion, and what I want for you guys, is to simply go for what sounds good to you. Don't try to mimic someone else's tone, okay? Because that's someone else's tone for one, and you're not going to get what you're hearing unless you can strip down that one single guitar track, and okay, then you can mimic it. You probably won't care for that tone, to be honest with you, because again, your tone that you hear in the full mix versus what you're used to playing in the bedroom or studio here by yourself, well, those are 2 different tones, okay? Because a lot of things have to happen for that tone to sound good in the full mix, okay? So again, I hope this saves you some time and frustration. Don't forget, I've got a link to my tone guide in the description of this video. Check that out. While you're in the description, guys, don't forget to check out the other links as well. I've got links to my free practice guide. I've also got links to my guitar courses in there, my music and all that good stuff. So hey, spend some time in there. That helps support what I do. I greatly appreciate that. By the way, give this video a thumbs up, please. Hit the subscribe button. And guys, I will see you on the next video. Until then, you know what to do. Keep it metal. I'll be right back. I'm going to chase some tone.